I was deep in slumber when it happened. Suddenly I was awoken by a brilliant light shining in my face. I rubbed my eyes and looked around, trying to figure out what was going on. And then I saw him, Brahmaji himself, standing before me in all his glory. I couldn't believe it. Here was one of the greatest deities in all of Hinduism, standing in my bedroom. But before I could even gather my thoughts, he spoke. Brahmaji looked at me sternly and said, "I heard that you were talking about temples in your waking life too. What's this all about?" I stuttered a bit, trying to explain that I just thought it would be a good idea to have more temples for all the gods. But Brahmaji seemed to be skeptical. I was stunned. I didn't even remember mentioning anything about a temple in my dreams, but Brahmaji seemed to know all about it. He went on to explain that he now lived near Mount Fuji and liked to meditate at the junction of 3 tectonic plates. Apparently that's how he challenged himself to stay calm despite all the evil in the world. Who knew that Brahmaji was such a thrill seeker? Anyway, Brahmaji was happy that I had brought up the temple issue, but he was a bit miffed that it might seem like he was in competition with Vishnu. He wanted to set the record straight and show everyone that his temples have stood high for thousands of years, even before Vishnu came along and started building his own temples, like the one in Angkor Wat. Brahmaji then revealed something that I found truly inspiring. He had always wanted more temples for Saraswati, where people could come and study for free. He was thrilled that the Japanese had built shrines for Benten, the Japanese incarnation of Saraswati, and that's why Japanese schools are still free. Apparently, Brahmaji had been keeping an eye on my life, and he noticed that I wasn't paying enough attention to the theories of Amartya Sen. Specifically, he told me that I needed to study Sen's views on generating work because it's an important aspect of human well-being. Brahmaji was not messing around, let me tell you. He explained to me that Sen's capability approach is a framework for assessing people's well-being that goes beyond traditional measures like income and GDP. Instead, it focuses on the capabilities that people have to live the kind of life they value. These capabilities include things like being able to live a healthy life, access education, participate in social and political activities, and pursue one's goals and values. Coming back to the issue of temples, he said, "I think it's a good idea as a lot of people can be involved in doing something that they like." Relieved that I wasn't in trouble, I nodded eagerly. Yes, exactly. It's a way for people to come together and create something beautiful. But Brahmaji had more to say. "I had a dream myself," he said, "that Mount Fuji could be converted into a temple of grand scale. I have already made the base, and human artists and technicians can be engaged in beautifying it so that it stands tall as a reminder of human ingenuity. I want a flight of stairs reaching to the top, with ornamented gates along the way, and at the center of the crater, I want a huge statue of Buddha, made of solid gold." I was taken aback. "Buddha? Why not a statue of yourself?" Brahmaji chuckled. "Ah, my dear friend, that is a good question. You see, Buddha never wanted a statue made in his honor. That is why I want one built for him. If I were to say that I don't want a statue made of myself, people will surely build one. But I prefer to have Buddha as my proxy, as I have the utmost respect for him. It will also serve as a reminder to stay calm and not erupt." I couldn't help but laugh at Brahmaji's humor. "And what about the surrounding theme parks and joyrides?" I asked. "Ah yes," Brahmaji replied. "I would like to give free passes to all who visit the temple so that they are inspired to do the exercise of climbing the stairs. And who knows, they may even find enlightenment along the way." I was amazed by Brahmaji's vision and couldn't help but be swept up in his enthusiasm. "Well, I am definitely on board with this project," I said. "Let's get started. Nowadays we have great technology like 3D printing, CNC, etc." He continued. "We don't need to turn to slaves to get this done. We can depend on happy participation." I must admit, I was still a bit overwhelmed by my conversation with Brahmaji. Turning Mount Fuji into a temple seemed like an impossible task. But Brahmaji was not deterred. "I have waited this long," he said. "I want to be treated grandly. I want my temple to be higher than the pyramids and a constant reminder to humanity that nature can build bigger than they can ever do. Their task is to beautify the world and take care of other living beings." I was struck by his words. It was true that humans often take for granted the incredible wonders of nature. Mount Fuji was already a stunning natural landmark, but turning it into a temple of such grandeur would truly be awe-inspiring. But still, the logistics of such a project seemed impossible. "How would we even begin?" I asked. Brahmaji smiled. With one step at a time, he said. We can start small and build up, and we can rely on the creativity and ingenuity of human beings to make it happen. I nodded, realizing that he was right. The project might be massive, but we could start small and work our way up. And with the help of modern technology and the human desire to create beauty, anything was possible. I asked him about funding for such a massive project. Could Lakshmi provide the required finance? I asked him. Brahmaji shook his head sadly. Lakshmi's treasury seems to be empty, with loan documents lying in the corner, he said. I had invented the printing press for printing books to spread knowledge on Saraswati's request, but now humans have gone further to make it possible to print wealth, so we must get to the wealthy to fund this. I was starting to feel discouraged. But how do we do that? How do we convince the wealthy to fund a project like this? Brahmaji smiled. That's where you come in, he said. With your years of experience in begging and staring at the eyes of the donor shamelessly, you can make it happen. I blushed and gave a bit of nervous laughter. I had to admit, I wasn't the best at fundraising, but Brahmaji had another idea. Or, he said, you could write stories to grab attention on the ideas that I send you from heaven. Use your creativity to spread the word and inspire others to get involved. Who knows, maybe a wealthy donor will see the potential in this project and offer to fund it. I nodded, feeling reinvigorated. Writing stories was something I could do, and if it could help make this temple project a reality, then I was all for it. Feeling emboldened, I asked him if I could ask a question as a mere human. Sure, go ahead, he said. I took a deep breath and asked, what do I get from it in the end? Brahmaji smiled wryly. I have heard your vegetable chops are a success, he said. You may open a shop at the base of the grand entrance where you can sell telebhaja, vegetable chops, and chalmuri. I was surprised by his answer. Vegetable chops and street food at a temple? But then I remembered that even Mamta Banerjee had suggested a similar idea before. Brahmaji continued, I know Japanese people are shy of religion and learning foreign languages, so maybe you can teach some Bengali and preach your line, Lojagrina boitin takte noe. And who knows, maybe you can also practice your skills at staring at their eyes shamelessly. I became red again. You never know when Brahmaji is joking. I asked Brahmaji if I could accept payment through PayPay into my Patreon account so that I could pay some tax to my friends. Brahmaji looked up and thought for a moment, scratching his head. He said, I need to ask Vishnu, but I can't find him anywhere. Someone said he went to learn about the AI pipeline. They are hopeful he can rig it again. And then he disappeared without a trace. I didn't have the answer. I realized that maybe the answer to my original question wasn't about what I would get from it, but what I could give. Maybe by creating a temple and selling vegetable chops, I could inspire others to come together and make a difference. And who knows, maybe one day I'll figure out how to use PayPay in the afterlife. As I woke up from my dream, I realized that maybe the key to making big things happen was to start small and use our unique talents to make a difference. And who knows, maybe one day I'll write a story that inspires someone to fund the temple of Mount Fuji.